completely end this whole period of the few controlling the many. And what has to go in any situation of transformation is the financial system. I was watching a video today of a woman talking about in detail about interest on money. Ludicrous. It's a unit of exchange to overcome barter. It should be serving us, not enslaving us. And she pointed out that 80% of the people, she had very good figures and background, 80% of the people pay more in their lives because of interest. About 10% are kind of equal, and 10%, just 10%, benefit by staggering amounts from the fact we have interest on money. And she was saying that something like the price of everything is about 45% higher than it would be without interest on money. Because of course it's not that just that we're paying interest on loans. Everyone we buy things from is paying interest on loans, and that goes into the price of the things we buy so they can pay the loans. So this interest on money has to go, and money has to take back its rightful place as overcoming the limitations of barter as a unit of exchange. And that's the kind of thinking we need, not should interest rates be up or interest rate, where should interest rates be? What's the Fed doing on interest rates? That's moving the bloody deck chairs. Interest has to go, because interest in itself is such a force for human enslavement. It's unbelievable. It's real prime to it.
Yeah, in truth, we've developed a society that simply can't sustain itself.
Yes, we have, and so many others have reached that point. But what has happened is, because of this consciousness thing, we've had revolutions to bring down a society that had reached the end of its period of sustainability, whether it was communism or fascism or anything, apartheid. And then you replace it, because the level of consciousness is the same in the revolution as that which is being challenged, then you get replaced with something else, and then you go through the same process again until that reaches a point of unsustainability, and then they have another bloody revolution and it starts again. You know, I've been in South Africa a lot. I've got a great friend there, Credo Mutwa, and apartheid may have been rightly replaced, but freedom in South Africa is now it's still just a word, you know, because the white elite that controlled South Africa during apartheid has now become a black elite in a one-party state called the African National Congress, and because whoever the African National Congress wins every election, because it's a one-party state, it means that whoever is elected by the hierarchy of the ANC to be president of the ANC will at the next election be the next president of the country. So we seemed there again to have taken this enormous leap from white minority rule to black majority rule, and yet you've gone from one elite to another. And ironically, the families behind apartheid are the families behind the black elite. And so in this period we're going through now, it's so important that we don't replace one mask with another mask at the same level of awareness. This has to be a fundamental rethink of the way we live our lives, because if it's not, then nothing's going to change except names and pedantics.
So, David, do you feel the internet is an outer reflection of what's actually happening on an inner spiritual level as far as an emerging collective planetary consciousness?
Well, the internet is a double-edged sword, because of course they created the internet because the authorities thought it would have benefit to them, and came from military technology, of course, and in one way it's a very good vehicle for surveillance and everything, because they know where you go, they can get a personality profile from you. Reading emails is a piece of cake, and they can store them and go and all that stuff. So it's good from that point of view. But what I do feel is that they weren't perceiving what's happened. And I look at my life and the information I've got out. I look at the Alex Joneses of this world and so many other people. Without the internet, we would not be anywhere near the level of awareness of the control system as we are, and other things too. And anything like the internet, which is in its own way, is a collective reality. I talk in my books and like on Saturday about in theme and some detail, the amazing parallels between the reality we're actually experiencing and the World Wide Web. There's so many parallels, and it's interesting that, you know, the old shaman of the past, they had to use analogies and symbolism to explain what they were trying to get across, that related to the lives that people could understand, the lives they were living. And so they had to use, you know, what academics would say, oh, they're primitive, they're saying that, you know, all the rest of it. Like, you know, the Zulus say the moon's an egg because they say it's been hollowed out and stuff like that. They use symbolism like that. But we now, in this period, have technology, the analogy of technology, that can really get across very powerful symbols for what we're actually experiencing in everyday reality. And anything that people focus on, they connect to in terms of consciousness, because ultimately everything is one. And so, in its own way, the internet is already a collective mind. It's already a collective mind, because every time you go online and you focus on it, you're connecting to it, not just electronically, you're connecting to it in terms of consciousness. So, you know, we've got the collective mind, we've got, if you like, call the individual mind, but there's this new phenomenon now, which is like a collective consciousness in itself, we call the internet. And when you see the information on the internet and the way the information is moving and changing, you could very well see it as an expression of the state of human consciousness. Because, you know, when the internet started, it was kind of just all kind of stuff you'd find in newspapers, and then it started to build and started to change. And now there's an enormous amount of information on the internet that is awakening, perception changing, and of course that's happening in the collective mind. I think it's a very good metaphor for what's happening. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think even you and I speaking right here, we're in communication, which is communion. Even two people feeds into the collective consciousness.
Exactly.
And when you look back in history, what the Gutenberg press alone did to the Renaissance and helping people wake up, you can really see where if you get a few 100 million people constantly connecting, it might be feeding into the planetary awakening in some sense that we don't even realize at this point.
Yeah, I think, you know, everything operates on many different levels. And so when you look at the internet and you see how much there is now that is looking at the world in a different way, that is a reflection of the way consciousness collectively is doing it. And, you know, you kind of ask the question in a way,